Let's do it. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good afternoon. Beautiful day after a nice long rain, wherever you are. This is Center for Local Prosperity. This is our monthly webinar on how to and on relocalizations. I'm Bob Cervelli, Senior Advisor for CLP. We are a regional nonprofit charitable organization. We work across all four Atlantic Canadian provinces. And the tagline would be that we help small, local, and rural communities to take greater agency, greater control over their economic future, and all the different ways that that means helping them build the skills that are necessary to look after their own needs, energy, food, housing, whatever it might be. So that's a lot of what we do. I'll announce some of the activities coming up towards the end of this 1 hour webinar. And thank you very much for joining us. We've got Nike on the call. They will be monitoring a chat box. We ask that that's where you put your questions as we proceed. And then we can pull those out and make sure we get them answered. Andy Horsnell is on. Andy, good to see you, Executive Director. So we've got a good representation here today. So we're going to talk today about repair cafes, and it's a great title. It says what it is. It's a cafe, and we're going to repair stuff, all kinds of stuff. And this is, I've come to find out, greatly appreciate, this is a large international movement, particularly out of Europe. They've been doing this for a very long time. They've been doing it in the US, in Canada, even in Nova Scotia. It's been happening for probably 12 years or more. And it pushes against our kind of consumeristic lifestyles with planned obsolescence and everything. I remember interviewing the last repair person for countertop appliances, small appliances, and he was retiring because nobody fixes those anymore. So there's a lot of stuff that can get fixed. That's what we're going to talk about. It's all about rebuilding those local skills at the local community level on if something breaks, take it apart, put it back together again, and make sure it works. So we've got three great panelists on today. We're going to cover a lot of ground around repairing, repair cafes, and more importantly, this is a how-to series. We're going to talk about how do you start a repair cafe wherever you are. So we've got Sydney. Sydney Gillis is with the city of Charlottetown, and it's actually part of her job description to run repair cafes. It fits in with their waste reduction budget, which is, of course, I got to hand it to the city of Charlottetown. They're really on top of a lot of this stuff. Very impressive. We've got Amy Lee Elaine with the Living Earth Council in Truro, and she's been doing this for quite a number of years as well. Those two experts, and then Etienne Bach in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia. And Etienne, I think, been cutting your teeth over the past couple of years and coming out strong on getting repair cafes going in at least South Shore area of Nova Scotia. So that's fantastic. Why don't we jump right in? I want to ask each of you to give more background, more detail on what you're doing and what you've been up to with repair cafes. Amy, how about if we start with you?
Hello, my name is Amy Lee, or you can call me Amy. I'm fine with either. I am from Truro, Nova Scotia. It's where I live and connect with my community. And as Robert mentioned, I am active with our local Living Earth Council, which is a grassroots, environmentally motivated group. And so they do all sorts of things. They are they kind of aim for policy change locally. They work very hard on active transportation, um, that sort of thing. And so we call them care and repair markets rather than repair cafes. But that is what we organize. We organize them through the Living Earth Council.
That's great. And how long have you been working, or how long have repair cafes been going on?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The Living Earth Council, before I joined them in 2020, they had two repair cafes in 2018 and one in 2019. I joined at the end of 2019, and then, of course, COVID hit. So I've been a part of the Living Earth Council since 2020 or so. And 2022 is when we had our first care and repair cafe back after all of the COVID lockdowns and all of those things. And we've been doing them about twice a year since then.
Okay, twice a year. That's impressive. Okay. And by the way, everyone, Nike is putting links in the chat box. And I think we'll have quite a few links probably by the time we're done. So do make sure to download those before we're done. Uh, Next, Sydney, how about you? Tell us about the work that's going on in Charlottetown.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you for that great introduction. My name's Sydney. I work with the City of Charlottetown's Sustainability Department as the Sustainability Project Coordinator. I've been with the city for about 4 years now, and we've done repair cafes my whole time here. Um, in Charlottetown, we actually call them Fix-It Fairs. It's kind of our little play on words for it. And the Fix-It Fair in Charlottetown's been going on since 2017. So almost 10 years. We did take a bit of a break during COVID. So unfortunately, we haven't had our 10th Fix-It Fair yet, but we're getting there. For us, our Fix-It Fair, we're holding it once a year as part of our annual Waste Reduction Week in the fall, in October during Circular Economy Month. Um, this past spring, though, our local library asked us to host a repair cafe fix it fair with them. So that was the first time that we'd done it in the spring and that were able to do two in a year. So we're hoping to kind of build on that partnership and continue doing a couple times a year. Um, yeah, I'm really lucky that this is a part of my job. The city has our annual waste reduction budget to go towards kind of communication and education around waste reduction. And the Fix It Fair is definitely our most popular waste reduction tactic that we're lucky to have here in Charlottetown. Um, yeah, we have a slew of we call them fixers, that come every year. This past Fix a Fair, we had about 30 volunteers. We're really lucky. We see a lot of returners. They make it really easy to run. Yeah, there's only maybe two or three staff that end up helping, and a lot of it is volunteer run. And we like to partner with different local organizations. So, for instance, the library, we have a tool library that we've partnered with in the past. We also have URSA, which is the Immigrant and Refugee Services Association in Charlottetown. They're a great resource for us for finding volunteers. But yeah, Charlottetown's a lot of fun. Um, I'm really
I,
lucky that this is a part of my job description.
and I like that, fixers at the Fix It Fair. There we go.
hmm
Okay.
Yeah.
Etienne, over to you. Tell us about what you've been doing on the pretty much now the South Shore of Nova Scotia.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Etienne Baquet. I live in Bridgewater. My family and I moved to Nova Scotia and the South Shore back in 2023. And it's just only last year that I had the idea to trying to organize a repair cafe event here in Bridgewater. So I started by just writing some notes, ideas, and getting some knowledge from the Repair Cafe International website, bouncing off some ideas with friends and neighbors. And in the end, we being me plus two other people who joined me as co-organizers, we organized the first Repair Cafe in Bridgewater last year. That was November 15th, 2025. And since then, we try to spread the knowledge and try to organize other Repair Cafe events in the area. So we organized one in the Riverport last March and one in Mahon Bay in early May last month. And so across these three events, we managed to have more than 50 volunteers, and that includes 40 plus fixers. And so we're really, really happy, yeah, to have done that. And it really is like a community effort. And looking forward now, well, first we are taking a break over the summer. But after the summer, there will be three events, three Repair Cafe events within 2 months. One that will be in Lunenburg in September, mid-September, one in Broad Cove, mid-October, and hopefully one in Bridgewater, some sort of like anniversary event in mid-November this year. All this information plus information on how to get started are available and compiled at nsrepairs.ca, but I'll have a chance to talk more about it, I believe.
Okay, that's amazing for what, a year,
Mhm.
or less than a year for the first one, but I'm sure you've been at it for a little over a year, pulling the whole thing together. So, I want to ask all of you, and maybe I'll start with Etienne because you seem to be the most recent at this. This is a how-to webinar. Okay, we're learning what a repair cafe is or a fix-it fair. But now, how do you get one going? What do you got to do? And Etienne, you cut your teeth over the past year. Maybe if you could tell us what are the high points, the key steps for someone else who wants to get into this.
Yeah, I would say the very first thing, in my opinion, to do is trying to find someone who would like to organize a Repair Cafe event with you. I started on my own, and then, as I said, two other people, their names are Leah and Siri. They came and joined me as co-organizers. At first, I started on my own, but even though I started on my own, I drafted some of my ideas and how to get an event started on a Google document, which I shared with some friends, and I got some feedback, which was great. But I think one way to improve that first step is to have someone from from the get-go to have a conversation
So build
on
it,
how,
build it,
yeah,
build
yeah.
a
So
team right off the
build a
start.
team, yeah, a team of two from the start, if possible. The next thing that to me is important is to set a date and a location and a venue, right? I think if you set from the get-go a date for the event, and that can be like at least 3 months away from now, and then a location, a venue, I think that's key because you know that you're working towards something, you have a deadline, but also when you share your idea of setting up Repair Cafe events with other folks, it's not you're just not sharing only an idea. You're like, I have a place booked, I have a date, and this is going to happen. And I noticed that this is very empowering for volunteers to be because they know that okay, I have a place, I have a space and time that is made for me. I think I can now try to share my skills with other folks through this event. So I
Okay,
would
so it sounds like jump right in, get the venue, get the date,
That's right.
um,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
for the date, so something that worked in our favor for the Bridgewater event was I went to see the recreation department in the town of Bridgewater. And they were like, you should book this fire hall on that date. The person that I met, she was the manager of the department of the recreation department in the town of Bridgewater. She had the calendar in front of her of all the events in Bridgewater. And she said, choose that event, just that weekend, sorry, because people are not going to be pulled by other events. It's a rather quiet weekend for first event of your kind. Go for that.
So pick the right date. Now,
Mhm.
Sydney, you had mentioned some of the partnering that you've done with the work that you do. I think some churches
Mhm.
and other things. And Etienne, you mentioned the fire hall and so on. So, Sydney, tell us a little bit about the importance of pulling in partners, partner
Mhm.
organizations.
Yeah, definitely. Um, it's absolutely imperative that you have some partners. I know with us, we're really lucky to have the city platform to build off of, but it's a lot more I've found useful to have those different partners. So you're able to access their networks, you're able to kind of borrow their resources and their knowledge. Um, I don't have a lot of, I'm learning my fix-it knowledge, but in terms of repairing, in terms of kind of getting the word out there, that's not my specialty, so I can go to my partners. They've already got these, whether it be long email lists or with our kind of refugee services locally, they've got those people that are already looking for volunteer hours that want to be involved in the community. So we're able to kind of utilize those partners. Even for tools, when we go to the library and they've got their tools that we can rent out, we don't need to go buy more. We can use their tools and the fixers can borrow those. And then for the library, it works in their favor as well because they're kind of advertising that service to the public, which is really lovely. So
That's a
it's
really nice,
beneficial to everyone. Yeah.
that's a nice link up with a tool library. That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Amy, I've got a question. Now you had mentioned that you're heavy into fiber, if I understand our previous conversation, and there's something called a mendery.
Yes.
Um, okay, which seems right along those lines. So, how valuable is it? And now, we talked about municipal governments. They're all over this stuff. I'm beginning to realize, Bridgewater, Charlottetown. I have to confess, we did one last year. This is we being Transition Bay St. Margaret's. We partnered with the town of Mahone Bay, and we did an upskilling, which is related to repair cafes. So they love this kind of stuff. And that's what I'd recommend to people is go talk to your town, your CAO, whoever it is. I think they would really jump at the chance on this. But Amy, tell us more about the partnering side, particularly even with local businesses.
Yeah, I am happy to. So just to echo Sydney, it, partnership is a huge part of how we are even able to run the care and repair markets in the first place. Um, so I mentioned that we call them care and repair markets. We try to focus on both the upkeep of the things that you own, as well as the repair of them. So that's why we call them the care and repair markets, because it's about maintenance, not just repair. Um, I mentioned that I work with the Living Earth Council, so that is a local organization. They had run two events before I even came into contact with them. Um, but then in 2022, after I had been with them for a couple of years, I had seen information about these care and repair markets or fix-it cafes, etc., floating around and brought to them, hey, what if we did one of these? And they said, great, we've actually done it before. Let's do it again. And our first step was to reach out to local organizations. So the Truro Farmers Market in our town is incredible. They're very community focused. So we initially went to them and they were our first venue. They didn't charge us for the space, and they let us be part of their regular Saturday market. So we got lots of exposure that way. Um, the the market hall here is it's an old fire station. So there's kind of three bays. They gave us their whole small bay for that Saturday to set up our vendors. We admittedly don't have quite as many fixers as some of the other markets. We typically have, I would say, probably 10 to 12 rather than 30 to 40. And that's generally because our venues are a little bit small. Um, but yeah, so the farmers market was a great starting point for us. If you have a market in your area, but you don't have a fix-it cafe, I do recommend going to your local market manager and just asking them to point you in the right direction because they've usually got a good feel for the like-minded people who are in the community. Um, and then local libraries is the other huge one. So they've been a huge partner for us. The Colchester East Hants Public Library here, the Truro branch. They've been a venue for us. They've let us take over some of their larger rooms for our events. And they've done promotion for us. And as Sydney mentioned, it's kind of a win-win for everybody when you partner with these local organizations because you're getting exposure from their audience, they're getting exposure from your audience, and on top of that, it just brings all of the community together in one place, which I think is really important for that just like human connection aspect of it as well, which is less to do with repair maybe, but I do think it's still really important.
Well, and that's it. It is important. Community cohesion. That's what it's all about, really, at the end of the day. So it sounds like all the public spaces really are very fertile ground. The libraries, the churches, the fire halls, farmers markets, all of those kind of places that people are familiar with. And I've got to want to change the theme here a little bit. We're all consumers. I hate that term, by the way, but we all have a lot of stuff, and so there's a lot of stuff that gets broken and could be fixed. So that's my question is, what are the most popular items? How do you match the fixers, the repairers with what you think might start to show up and people want to see if they can get it fixed? Etienne, how about if you lead off on that?
Yeah, that's a good question, a hard one as well. I feel like we've been asking ourselves this question, how to create that better match, and I think it's just a matter at some point to just have to organize a few events and see the trends. So after three events, we've seen that many people came with clothing to mend. Another station that has been very popular, we've noticed, is the tool sharpening station. If you let people know in advance that there is going to be a tool sharpening station at the repair cafe, lots of people are going to bring their knives, their gardening tools, and so on. So it's been a very, very popular, successful one. And small appliance. I think there's a lot of demand to get small appliance item fixed. So those are observations that we've noticed after the fact. But in order to create like a sense of expectation for the guest, what we've been doing is to put a description of all the tables that are going to be available at a given Repair Cafe event on our website. So if you go on nsrepairs.ca, on the front page, you will see that there is still the advertising of our Mahon Bay event. And there you will see that there is a description of all the tables that guests were expecting to find. So it's about setting the expectations before the event and then just for us organizer, a matter of like observing what worked and what did not work.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about the sharpening. I think everybody would probably jump on that one. And I can
Mhm.
see why having a list, it would trigger people. Oh, I've got this thing in the attic. I've been meaning to, whatever, that kind of thing. Sydney, I would imagine that there's people at yours that with sewing machines. Is that,
Hmm.
I would think that you got to have
Yeah.
only two or three sewing machines at these repair cafes. Is that
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. Sewing machines there to do the repairs, and then also people bringing them in to be repaired. They're kind of on both ends, which is nice because then you have that expertise there to fix them too. Um, for us, when we're gathering volunteers, I put together a very simple Google form. And in that, when we ask for the contact information, names, we include like what you're most comfortable fixing and just like a broad open question. So people will say, bikes, clocks, um, electronics, mechanical stuff, stuff like that. So then as we're getting volunteers, we kind of know what our skills are going to be the day of the Fix It Fair. Um, and then we're able to take that list and use it in our advertising, much like Etienne said. Um, we can provide examples, come to the Fix It Fair, you could bring a clock, a boombox, a toaster to sort of give people an idea of the kind of things that we can fix. And then the day of the fair, we'll try to organize fixers into those different categories. So we'll have little signs on tables and we'll, put the furniture people over here and we'll put the mechanical people over on the other side, the bikes in the middle. And that way those people can also share tools. There's a moment for connection between the fixers too, between items. They can kind of solve issues together. And yeah, we ask that the public bringing their broken items in stay with their item too, so that they can see it being repaired. And it's just a really lovely moment of community connection when you've got all those people focused on that one item. Everyone's learning from each other, whether you've come, with a broken item or if you've come to repair something, everyone is able to take something away.
Hey, wow. Amy,
Hmm.
I'm wondering here now, I'm just kind of visualizing a repair cafe happening. You've been advertising, promoting the whole thing. The doors open, people start showing up. Okay. And as Etienne was kind of alluding to, you're kind of trying to match, fixers with people needing some. So what happens if suddenly there's three, four, five people standing in line with blue jeans that need to get fixed?
That's a
Do
great question. So we have a very similar approach to it sounds like Sydney, but ours is a little bit smaller scale, as I mentioned. Um, and this our community connections come back into play a little bit here as well, because our Truro Farmers Market, our public library, and our fire hall are all like next to each other, so you can walk from one to the other very easily. And so we use that to our advantage, and we use either the fire hall space or space at the public library, and we hold our care and repair markets on market days. And so that way, if we've got somebody who is waiting in line, and we do, of course, offer, if people want to stay and watch the process and learn a little bit about it, we offer that. But if they want to drop off their blue jeans instead of standing in line for, behind those other five people, they can go shop the farmers market, and connect with people there and do their socializing. And then they can come back and pick up the work that they've done, the work that we've done. We can explain the process to them at that point. And so it just kind of alleviates some of the pressure of like trying to rush through men's for people while they're waiting in line.
Yeah. Okay. And that raises a question, kind of a drop-off scenario almost. I do want to get back to a little bit more on how to that we were talking about, but I want to ask another one. Etienne, maybe for you, this is a repair. So how much of it is just repairing something for somebody, and how much of it is teaching them how to repair stuff, whatever it is they have?
Yeah, I would say the educational component is actually pretty important, right? I think so when we manage to find some fixers and when we they are like willing to come and help at an event, we tell them ahead of the event, try to engage the guests who's coming to you to get something fixed. Try to create a relationship, and so that they try to be engaged by whatever is being fixed, and have them to be a bit curious. But it's not a hard requirement. Sometimes some fixes really goes off the head of the guest, right? Let's say someone is bringing a laptop, and then like the fixer would open the laptop and would just like do some component, touch some components or do like a complete software reinstallation. That can go over the head of the guest depending of their technical skills. So it's not a hard requirement. So, but still, the educational component is huge. And actually, I volunteered as a fixer at the Mount Bay event in May, and I spent I was at the computer table, and I spent most of my time just like chatting with a 9-year-old who was like extremely curious about something, about computers in general. And so I had an excellent conversation with him and his dad. And so yeah, so he was like very curious. I spent most of my time chatting with this kid. That was great. That was great. So the educational component is not to be underestimated for sure.
Sounds like you got a future fixer coming up the line there.
Yes, hopefully.
That's fantastic. Okay. So, just to circle back now on how to. So, if I'm in Miramichi, I'm in Corner Brook, wherever I am, and I'm going to start doing this. First thing, Etienne, you mentioned, Etienne, is build a team, reach out to some folks, get a few people together, decide you're going to go for it, then pick a venue and a date. and tie it down so now there's something tangible. It's going to happen. So I would think promotion is probably a big part of it at that point. Sydney, tell us a little bit about promotion because people got to know you got to promote in two ways. You got to find the fixers, and then you also
Hmm.
got to tell the public to show up.
Hmm. Yeah. So I'm lucky in the sense that we have like the cities, we can advertise on the city's social media. We've got a communications department that luckily can give us a bit of a hand that way. And then we're also lucky to have some budget that we can put towards that. Um, but really, again, like leaning on the partners is where we seem to have the most engagement. Um, People, if you not to get into the algorithm of it all, but the people that I want to reach might not necessarily have like the city of Charlottetown on their social media or in their email lists. Um, so leaning on even like the local like Girl Guides, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, um, just sending a notice to them, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, um, giving those organizations an idea for them to take their kind of network of people to. Um, a lot of the times, those organizations, especially if it's a free event, they'll share with their own email lists or their own communities or at their regular meetings. Um, and I think having consistent events as well. We do it every October. So when October rolls around, when September rolls around, people know that this is coming up. I need to collect, my broken things, or I need to see what in my house is broken that could be repaired. So yeah, having consistency. There are some places you can advertise for free. Um, I would say, there might be some printing costs, but doing posters in local coffee shops has worked surprisingly well for Charlottetown. Just people gather places when they're sitting in there waiting for their coffee. If they're looking at the bulletin board, that's something that could catch their eye. We also have a company in PEI called The Buzz, and they have an online calendar of all the events that are going on, so you can post your community events there for free. Um, yeah, again, just those partners like the library, they usually have a list of events that they do each month. Um, yeah, I think especially if many people will recognize in Atlantic, Canada, word of mouth is really powerful here. So just getting the word out and having, yeah, consistency seems to work the best for us.
Okay. Um, w-
Hmm.
so promotion, the date, the venue, the promotion, and then you
Hmm.
basically just, learn as you go. It sounds like that's what you've been doing at Jen. Um, Amy, we didn't touch in. I'm curious about budgets. What kind of a budget is needed to do a repair cafe?
I think that depends on how shameless you're willing to be about begging your local organizations for like venue space and things like that. Um, we have very little budget. Like the Living Earth Council just has very little budget. It's a grassroots volunteer-run organization. So we do collect donations for the Living Earth Council at these events. And that helps, go into things like supplies and things like that. A lot of our tools have been donated from community members or community organizations. A lot of our fixers will bring their own tools and things like that. Like I'll bring my sewing machine when I go to events, things like that. Um, so we kind of save on costs that way a little bit. We don't offer, our fixers are there by volunteer. We don't offer a payment necessarily for the volunteers. But we do try to leave a little bit of budget to get them like a little gift card to a local business or something like that. Um, as I mentioned, we don't have a ton of fixers. Usually it's 10 to 12 per event, so that's not a crazy expense for us. And that probably is the thing that we spend the most money on for the events.
Okay, okay. Etienne, what's your experience with budget? More or less the same, or?
More or less the same. Yeah, I think so we've been very lucky so far. Across like for the three events that we've organized, we managed to get the venues for free. For example, the Bridgewater one last year, the town of Bridgewater had some budget at the recreation department. And given the nature of the event, when I went to present the project, the idea to the recreation department manager. She told me, yes, we'll likely have some budget for that. We'll be able to cover the rental of the fire hall event room. Um, and then really, I don't think we spend a whole lot of money for these events. People are willing to bring their items. The fixers are willing to bring their items most of the time, especially the fixers doing clothing mending. We spent some money on buying some gear and equipment for the jewelry repair table. So yes, that was something. But and we also spent some money for posters and we spent some money for consumables, namely tea, coffee, and then also volunteers and fixers brought some homemade cookies as well, because that's one key component of the Repair Cafes event that we've organized so far. We're making it a point that, coffee is free at the event for everyone. So we just, we invest in getting coffee and, milk and cream or whatever, so that people can just have like a free cup of coffee at the event. Yeah. So
Fantastic.
minimal budget.
So I do want to encourage anyone listening in, put your questions in the chat box. We'll be able to get to those. I think we've got some time here. Don't hesitate, and we'll keep an eye out for those. So, Amy, Sydney, Etienne, I'm hearing that there's not a whole lot of obstacles here in the way to getting repair cafes going. It really comes down to some inspired folks. The partners sound like they really just love ideas like this and they fall in line pretty quickly. Doesn't cost a whole lot of money, if anything. So, it's really something that I could see really kind of blooming all over the region in some ways, and really try and expand that. I want to explore that a little bit more. And Jen, you'd mentioned jewelry repair. That's got to be a huge one because taking something into a jeweler isn't cheap. That can cost a lot of money. I would think there'd be a line at that one if you advertised it, kind of like the knife sharpening or something.
Yes, the jury table has been a successful table as well. As in, like our jury fixer has been busy, but luckily, someone who's like a professional jury fixer reached out to us and said that she wanted to participate in the future events. And yeah, I'm just like maybe paraphrasing you a bit. I feel like the Repair Cafe work because there is like an implicit buy-in from the people. We're not trying to like reach out to different location and be like, let's get an event, a Repair Cafe event organized there. Um, it's just that we have like some knowledge on how to organize a repair cafe, and then people reached out to us and be like, I want to get started. How do we do that? So that's why we compiled some information on our website. And as a result, I was mentioning the Lunenburg event in September and the Broadcove event in September. Me and the two other co-organizers that I mentioned earlier, we were the three of us, we organized the one in Bridgewater. We have like almost nothing to do with these like upcoming events. Those are purely community-led events that are happening, right? So yes, to your point, Robert, these events are led by people who wants to make it happen. So it's happening pretty organically, which is nice.
Okay, okay. I've got to say, with what's going on globally, internationally, I think we're starting to see more and more year after year, particularly this year, supply chains getting a little bit more fragile, prices, that sort of thing. I can only imagine that there's an unmet need. There's a kind of a bubbling demand for repair cafes really across the whole region. And they're not that difficult to get started. It sounds like. So do we should check on any questions we've got?
We have a couple.
Okay.
So the first one you were maybe leading this way, Bob, is would you consider running them more often or charging a pay what you can approach to put back into the next one? So frequency, or how do you make it sustainable?
Either of the three of you want to jump in on that one?
I can chime in, I guess. Etienne, you'll probably have more to add to this too. Um, we with the Living Earth Council, we are actually looking at kind of developing a separate care and repair market committee, so that we can focus more on it will still be volunteer run, but we're hoping to be able to focus more kind of year round on this sort of event. And so a pay what you can approach is something that we might be looking at. We It's tough because we really like for repair to be something that's very accessible. Like you can go pay to get something repaired most of the time in Truro. But it's not often that you can go get it done for free. And so we really like to embrace that accessibility part of it with our care and repair markets. And so we try to offset it a little bit by having that like donation table for the Living Earth Council rather than having like a pay per mend or pay per fix kind of situation.
Okay. Etienne, Sydney, anything to say on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna add on to what Amy just said. She made a very good point. I would like to talk about the pay what you can versus the donation aspect. We're we in our group are coming from the fact that there is a lot of self-determination that is a component of the Repair Cafe event. And I feel like because of that, there is like, how can I say, maybe a non-transactional relationship between the guests, the staff, the fixers. And so if we're starting to talk about, and it's just my opinion, if we're starting to talk about a pay what you can approach, in pay what you can, there is pay, right? If the guests are saying pay what you can, they may put something, but there is already implicitly this idea that they're going to receive a service. And I don't think that's quite within the ethos of the Repair Cafe movement. And so that's why I would consider a donation jar in favor, instead of a pay what you can approach. Just for that reason, I feel like people are coming. There is a non-transactional relationship between guests and fixers, and guests are leaving and give whatever they want at the end. So I think it's like, maybe it's not you may think that you may not raise as much fund with such approach, but I think it's like a key component of the identity of Repair Cafe events.
Have any of you used a donation jar?
Yeah,
Okay.
at each event. Yeah,
Okay. All right. So there's less expectation with the donation jar, and people can just throw a $5 bill in there or whatever they want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we actually often find like a lot of the time people want to pay for the work that you've done. So like people will try to pay the repair people and we just send them to the donation bin. So yeah, you might find that as well.
Okay. It helps pay for the coffee as well, I would
That's,
think.
that's right, exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
and just one last tip on the donation jar. You can have two donation jars. We last time we put one by the kitchen, where like people were getting some treats or coffee, and one outside of the main room, where like people were leaving, like the some sort of checkout table, right? But people may miss the donation jar at the checkout table, but if they got a coffee at near the kitchen or the barn, maybe they saw that one.
Oh,
So you
that's a
can have
great
a
idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, you're getting your coffee and your cookie or whatever and throw a toonie in. Yeah. That sounds good. Now, Sydney, you had mentioned that at the end of some of your events that you actually have some food and have sort of a social thing, or at the end, people get to know each other, do a little
Hmm.
more networking. How's that going?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that's something that we've only introduced the last couple of Fix It fairs. So as a thank you to the fixers, once the events all come to an end, we usually run them for about 3 to 4 hours. Um, we will kind of finish up with all the members of the public, and then we'll have everybody, all the volunteers come together and have a bit of a meal as a thank you. Um, and that's really lovely. A lot of the time the day gets quite hectic and people are coming and going and it's almost like it's fun, but it is work for the fixers. So for them to have a moment to rest and kind of connect with each other and it's fun. You'll watch people reminisce about like, oh, remember when that lady brought in, the blender and they can kind of circle back and be like, well, how did you fix that thing on that bike? And it's really interesting to see that community building at the end as well. It's really lovely. Food always brings people together,
That's great. Yeah, and
and people
and
build up an appetite.
and I'm appreciating you got to look after your fixers and show some gratitude and that
Hmm.
sort of thing. Nike, how
Absolutely,
are
yeah.
So another question I think is interesting is, are there any concerns being raised by for-profit businesses, especially as it relates to computer repair?
yeah, are you guys in competition somehow with somebody out there?
I don't I don't want to bulldoze everybody, but I can speak to this a little bit as well. A lot of our fixers actually are small business owners. And so the Fix It Cafe, it's a volunteer opportunity for them, but then they also get the opportunity to tell people about their business if they want to. We let fixers have business cards out on their tables if that's something that they're interested in. Like, we want to support these people. Like you say, you got to take care of them. So we haven't personally, like, with our group has not had any complaints or concerns from any local businesses. Um, I think probably if we did, our response would be to invite them to join us for one of our care and repair markets.
Okay. Yeah. If you can't beat them, join them. There you go. Um,
Yeah.
Etienne, Sydney, anything to say about that? Any competitive issues?
Yeah, I think I can echo what everyone else has been saying. Um, we've not had, luckily, knock on wood, any complaints from anybody. But in Charlottetown, trying to find like appliance repair people is pretty slim. So we might be lucky in that regard that there's not huge competition for this where I am. But we do let our fixers, if they do have a business, have their business cards out. If there's, if they're fixing an item and they find that they don't have the proper tools or there's a part that's missing, will allow the fixer and the member of the public to connect, share numbers so that they can fix it at a later date at their own shop. We make sure it's really clear to everybody that what happens at the repair cafe is totally free, and anything that happens outside of that is all kind of at the discretion of the owner of the item or the business that they're working with. Um, and we too have had people reach out to us, as well. We reached out to businesses, so we have a local knife sharpener that had reached out to us and wanted to, similar to Nova Scotia, wanted to provide that service for free at the Fix Fair. We've reached out to local bike mechanics who've donated their time, and that's worked out really well. Um, yeah, I think also the fact that we have it only one day a year helps, so it's not like a huge competition for a lot of people.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Keeping an eye on our time here. Nike, how are we doing with questions?
We have another one. So, does anybody actively recruit Fix-It volunteers amongst particular groups in the community?
Okay. Among particular community groups. Okay. Anybody want to jump in?
Yeah. If anybody else wants to say anything, I feel like I just spoke a lot, but I can add. So a group I think that I mentioned before that we've had a lot of success in recruiting volunteers for is our local IRSA, so it stands for Immigrant and Refugee Services Association. Repair cafes are an international thing. A lot of people that are coming to PEI are already familiar with them, so to see something from home in PEI seems to spark joy and connection for those people. And a lot of these people are looking to build community. They want to meet new people. They have skills that maybe they aren't able to use in their day-to-day life right now. So that's been a really, really good resource for us, is Immigrant and Refugee Services.
That's really interesting to me because I would
Hmm.
imagine, and it's a bit of imagining that they're coming from a culture where they have to know how to fix stuff much more. And a good friend of mine runs
Sometimes.
the school library in Pemberton, BC, and he told me once, Bob, he said, our generation just knows how to buy stuff. He said, but there's other generations, they want to know how to build stuff, fix stuff, and grow stuff.
Hmm.
So it really strikes me that I'm not surprised the recent immigrants would be really all over this kind of thing.
Hmm. Yeah, they've been a great resource.
Okay. Amy, Etienne, anything to say? You hit some good here.
For like the so-called recruitment, we have not targeted, we have not like reached out to like particular groups in general. Our process has been like the same. We have a Facebook group and we would advertise, we would make call for volunteers on our Facebook group and on our website. And we would ask people if they know anyone that would like to participate as a fixer to reach out to us to our email address or via Facebook message. And that's basically how we've been recruiting people. Word of mouth as well works very well. But no, we have not targeted any like particular group in our community. But yeah, that's an interesting question. That's something that we could also do.
Amy, anything to add?
We function very similarly to Etienne, where we kind of just have like social posts recruiting people, asking them to reach out to us. Um, and then I guess the other thing I would say is that we have had local organizations reach out to us and want to be part of, not necessarily active recruiting, I guess. But we've got, they're called the Lemonade Society here, and they advocate for mobility and accessibility and that sort of thing. And so they come and help out at our bike repair station. And so it's a little bit of another win-win where they get to spread the word about their organization, and we get to have them as helpers for fixing not only bicycles, but wheelchairs, accessibility aids, all sorts of things.
Okay, very cool. We've got a few minutes left, and I want to ask Amy, we'll start with you. Personally, why is this work important for you?
Oh, what a great question. I've always considered myself to be an environmentalist. I always try to, weigh the options and choose the sustainable one. Um, And I guess repair in particular started to appeal to me. You mentioned earlier that I'm a bit of a fiber enthusiast. I'm a knitter. And so I started knitting my own clothing, my own socks, sweaters, that sort of thing. And as they started to wear, you get really attached to those things when you spend hours on them. And so I figured, hey, I better learn how to fix them. And then it turned out that other people wanted those skills too. And so I love sharing them. Um, I might not have mentioned this earlier, but I'm not only a mender at the care and repair markets, I'm also a mender at a local business here in Truro that I'm a part owner of. Um, and yeah, it's just really important to me to keep the stories of our garments going. I'm a textile focused mender, and I think our clothing has a lot of stories to tell, and I want to help tell it.
Okay, share skills. Sydney, how about you? Why is this work important?
Yeah, I think it's so interesting that Amy mentioned stories. A lot of the times people are bringing in things that are important to them. Um, we have a lot of seniors that will bring in like old radios. They'll bring in, a CD to play once it gets fixed of something that isn't like hold memories for them. And they will oftentimes unprompted just tell you kind of the story of like, well, I got this in the 80s and this is the CD that, my friend got me and we used to dance to it after school. And I really want to hear it again. So stories like that are really, really heartwarming. They keep you going. Um, and yeah, I think going through my own life, when I break an item, it's so easy to throw something out. But it does feel like such a waste, if it's got that one thing that needs to be fixed and I don't have the tool to fix it or the means to fix it. But I know like if I had taken it to someone, they could fix this one thing and then it'd be fine for 10 more years. So just thinking of that, thinking of saving money too. Taking things on your own. I had a coworker who wanted to fix a microwave and he took it to a local repair shop. They charged him, I think, $100 just to look at it. And then the parts needed, you have to pay for the parts and then you have to pay for the labor to fix it again. And in the end, it couldn't even be repaired. It was something that was, a part that wasn't made anymore. So he ended up just kind of wasting that money. Whereas if he took it to the Fix-It Fair, maybe somebody there could take a look at it for free. Um, could help him out, kind of point him in the right direction. So yeah, I think just the people of everything keeps you going.
Okay, Etienne, um, you've moved over from France, you say, and seems like you really dove in pretty quickly on this. What motivates you?
What motivates me for repair cafes? So there are many layers here, but I really like the point that Amy and Sydney talked about. The one about stories, that's the very good one, and I fully agree with that. At the personal level, I think we can all agree that we just like to have and own and use the item which we fix, or like things that we make ourselves, right? If we're just stepping out of for a moment out of the repair world. Um, for example, I make my own bread, and that's the bread that I like to eat because there is like something. There's another layer when you make something, when you make your own food, you just like appreciate it more. So back to the repair world, I feel like if you fix onto something, there is like something, I don't know, there's a more of a relationship that gets created between the person and just like the items they own. So I think that repair is important for at the personal level in that way. And more at the macro level, I would say that to me, repair cafes are important because, as you mentioned earlier, there is like this is the age of planned obsolescence, and repair cafes give people back an agency over their belongings, and I think that's very important. And I think we can talk about democratic economy. Democracy is most of the time understood through, politics, but we never talk about democracy for the economy and for like, obvious reasons. I feel like people would like to see the economy flourishing where it's not flourishing right now. Let me explain. We would like to see money like poured into, care and just like other things that are really important for humanity. And instead, like money gets poured into things that are likely to generate the most profit. So having democracy back into the economy, I think that's what Repair Cafe also allows, and I think that's like to me a step in the right direction.
That's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. And I like the part about after something's repaired once, twice, maybe three times, it's got a story, becomes something on its own. I think it just makes me, it kind of hits my heart. It brings me back to a knife sharpener that is my wife's grandmother's wedding present. It's pushing 100-year-old knife sharpener. So there's a whole story around this thing, but it's been repaired I don't know how many times. It's built like a rock, of course. That's which is what they did back. They didn't even know what obsolescence was back then when they built stuff like that. Anyway, we're just about out of time. I want to thank the three of you deeply. This has been absolutely fantastic conversation. I'm glad it's recorded. People can plug in. Do check the chat box. There's a whole lot of good content in there. And if you don't know how, you can save the chat box. I think it's up on the upper right corner there. If you click on that, it says save, the three dots, I believe. And I do want to mention we are going to pause the seminar for the next 2 months. And that's because we're going flat out right now, putting together a massive event. We're taking over the town of Tatamagouche. Okay, all the venues. This is the Local Prosperity Festival. Go to localprosperity.ca. It's going to be massive. We've got international keynotes coming in talking about localization, local agency, all of that. To those types of topics. There's going to be quite a lot of workshops on local agency, everything from localizing investment, all kinds of different topics, and even some upskilling is going to be going on. I think we just signed up somebody yesterday who's going to teach people how to make how to make salves, handmade locally. And we're hoping to get beekeeping, all kinds of stuff in there. So check out the website, plan to come, tell your friends. It's going to be a huge event. And we're going to pick up again in the fall with the webinar series. In September, I think we're going to be trying to go for a topic, time sharing. There's a lot of both international and local efforts. It's almost like a currency. Think of it like money, sharing your time. And then October is going to be fascinating. How can residents purchase a community building for community benefit? So that could be a good one right there as well. So I want to thank everybody. I think our time is up. It's been a great hour and appreciate you joining us today. Thank you.